You think saving every dollar makes you rich, but you could be very wrong. Solomon, the wealthiest man who ever lived, said that hoarding money is exactly why you'll end up broke. There's a principle buried in a 3,000-year-old proverb that the best investors, the most generous entrepreneurs, and the most connected professionals all operate by, whether they know it or not. It's called the circulation law, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Proverbs 11:24 says this: "One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty." That's not a feel-good offering speech. That's an economic observation from a man who built an empire. Today, we're breaking down exactly what that means for your money, your career, and your network today. Practically, not just spiritually. Here's what most people do with money when they start earning. They lock it down. They hold it tight. They keep it in their bank, and they think, the more I keep, the richer I get. And on paper, that makes sense. And it feels really good seeing the numbers grow slowly. But here's what actually happens to money that doesn't move. 1. Inflation eats it. Money sitting in a low-yield account loses purchasing power every single year, silently, without asking permission. It becomes harder to beat inflation in uncertain economic times. 2. It earns you no goodwill. You haven't helped anyone. You haven't built anything. Nobody owes you a referral, a connection, or a favor. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, but the next one is. 3. You miss every opportunity to grow your wealth if the money is not working for you. The hoarder doesn't just lose financially, they lose relationally. And in the real world, sometimes your network is your net worth. Solomon saw this in his court. You see it in Silicon Valley. The pattern is the same. Now let's look at the other side of that verse. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Ever wondered why or how people who give away millions of dollars end up having more while you struggle to barely stay afloat? How? Practically, how does giving more lead to having more? Here's the mechanism. Think of money not as a reservoir, but as a river. A reservoir holds water. It looks full, but it goes stagnant. It evaporates. Nothing lives downstream. A river keeps moving. It irrigates land. It powers mills. It feeds communities. And the source stays full. When you give freely, whether that's money, time, expertise, or access, here's what comes back: reputation. People remember who helped them. That memory becomes trust. Trust becomes referrals. Referrals become revenue. Relationship capital. The most valuable currency in any industry isn't money, it's access. And access flows toward generous people. Returned value, multiplied. The person you helped gets resourced, grows, and brings you into their next opportunity. You didn't lose what you gave. You invested it into a human being. This is why the most connected people in every field, the ones who seem to always have options, always land on their feet, are almost always known as generous people. It's not coincidence, it's circulation. Now here's where the biblical lens adds something that pure finance can't. The scarcity mindset says there's only so much. I have to protect mine. The Proverbs 11:24 mindset says there's a source that replenishes what I release. That's a fundamentally different operating system. When you give from scarcity, you give reluctantly, constantly calculating what you might lose, and people feel that. It doesn't build relationship, it builds debt. When you give from abundance, believing that what you release will return, you give cleanly, no strings and no scorekeeping. And ironically, that's what makes people want to return it. This isn't naive, and we all know that Solomon wasn't naive. He was the greatest deal maker, builder, and wealth accumulator of his era. He wasn't saying give recklessly. He was saying withholding when you should be flowing is the actual financial mistake. The word in Hebrew is withholding unduly. Unduly, meaning beyond what wisdom requires. Hoarding as a default posture. That's the trap. So what does this look like for you practically as a young professional? Number 1, give your knowledge freely. Answer that DM. Write that thread. Share what you know. People who hoard expertise to seem indispensable become obsolete with time. But people who share it build authority progressively. Number 2, be the connector. When you know 2 people who should meet, introduce them. It costs you nothing, and it builds a reputation as someone who adds value just by existing in a room. Number 3, invest in people before you need them. Pay for someone's course, or surprise a junior colleague by buying them lunch. Celebrate someone else's win publicly, and do it with no agenda. The return comes, but not always from where you gave. Number 4, recirculate money with intention. Tip generously, and support small businesses in your community. Give to your church or to causes you believe in, not to impress, but to stay in the posture of a giver. The goal isn't to be reckless with your finances. Budget, save, invest, but within that, keep something flowing. Because the moment your posture becomes pure accumulation, you've left the river and built a reservoir, and reservoirs go stagnant with time. Proverbs 11:24 isn't a fundraising pitch. It's a description of how reality works, written by someone who had tested it at scale. Give freely, move generously, stay in circulation, and watch what comes back. If this hit different, share it with someone who needs to hear it. That's literally circulation in action. Subscribe for more videos where we learn more about how to manage our money the biblical way. And drop in the comments, what's one area where you've been withholding when you should have been flowing? Let's talk about it.